we just go back. It's almost like it stops being worth it very, very quickly. And that's not what I want for you. I want for you to decide in 2026 that this is the year that you are going to start making small, consistent, intentional, and focused adjustments that are going to change your life forever. Wellness is not a New Year's resolution. It is a new life's resolution. Hey, listener, welcome to episode number 90 of Listen Up. Today, I am thinking about your wellness journey and where you are at in that wellness journey. I think maybe the reason I'm thinking about this so much is because my son has been sick and my mom has been sick. My son has had sinus infection. My mom has had pneumonia. There's been all this illness around me. And it reminded me of that famous saying that a healthy man wants a million things, but a sick man only wants one, which is their health, and how true that is. And even though sometimes an illness will bestow upon you, whether you like it or not like it, and that's when you really have to focus on your health, I believe strongly that it is your responsibility to create a life of wellness, to do your part in avoiding unnecessary health issues, right? Some we cannot control, you can't control you catch the flu or COVID or a virus. Oftentimes you can't really, well, that's actually not true. I'm going to go ahead and say that that's not true. Sometimes we can control it by taking better care of ourselves and building up our immune systems so that we don't get sick. So I'm not going to say that you can't control. What I am going to say is sometimes, even though we think we're doing the right things, we can still get sick. And that is just life teaching us something. The universe is teaching us something. It reminds me of Wayne Dyer in his book, Wishes Fulfilled. He was talking about his leukemia, and Wayne Dyer had devoted his life to wellness. He ate well and he exercised and he meditated and he worked on his personal development and on his personal growth. And then he got this leukemia. And I remember him saying in Wishes Fulfilled that he believed that leukemia was his body's way in its infinite intelligence of helping him resolve unresolved emotional trauma. In his case, specifically in some family relationships that he needed to heal. And he believed that the leukemia was supporting that healing process for him. So I'm not suggesting that we are never going to be faced with an illness or a health situation that is meant to serve a higher purpose, like helping us heal from trauma or heal some emotional wounds or slow down or rest or learn something. Those things happen, and it is also our responsibility to do our very best to create an immune system and a body and a soul and a life that supports the healthiest version of ourselves. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. Also note, if you have been here a while, then you already know this, but if you are brand new here, one of the things that I do on this podcast and in my work and in my life is I name intentions. Specifically, I name a theme for every month of the year. And this month, the theme for January is Adjust January. And the reason I named that theme for this month is because January is a winter month and we are in a winter season up until about March here in the Northern Hemisphere. And the winter season's energy is a different energy than New Year's Eve and New Year's resolutions energies. A winter energy is an energy that is quiet, it is inward, it is restful, and it is also grounded in deep root work. This is not the time to be asleep at the wheel. This is the time to embrace an awakened dreaming. This is not the time to do nothing. It is the time to do quietly, intentionally, and mindfully. Somebody referred this the other day, and I thought it was so great. It's the time of the winter arc. You're arcing between the fall season and the spring season. You have just come from a time of harvesting, enjoying the fruits of your labor of the last year, watching all of the leaves fall off, seeing everything go quiet and a little bit dark to give you time to rest and recover. And you are arcing to the spring where you are going to come alive. You are going to bloom. All the colors are going to come to life again. And this arc is a very important time. It's a time of adjustments. It is not a conquer all. It is not a sprint to the finish line. It is a time of adjustment. So that is what I want to impart on you today is what are the adjustments that you get to make from a mindset and from a habit perspective to really create a life that supports your wellness. And that is very important. I will also share that is a very different energy than the kickstart, I want to lose 10 pounds by spring energy. Why? Because I want to lose 10 pounds by spring energy is often a temporary sprint energy. I just want to work really hard and do what needs to get done for the next 3 months so that I can go back to my life the way that I know it. That is a very temporary solution. And what happens often is we start strong, but we taper off very quickly. It's almost like we can't wait to get back to our regular life. So the moment that we get frustrated or we plateau or we feel like it's not working or we need to make a tweak or an adjustment, we just go back. It's almost like it stops being worth it very, very quickly. And that's not what I want for you. I want for you to decide in 2026 that this is the year that you are going to start making small, consistent, intentional, and focused adjustments that are going to change your life forever. Wellness is not a New Year's resolution. It is a new life's resolution. Hey, quick pause from the episode to ask you, have you chosen your one word of the year yet? I am a huge proponent of having one word to anchor into the year and live with intention. If you need a little help, I have created a free guide to support you in the process with prompts and a video and all sorts of good stuff to help you choose your one word. So go to the show notes or just go to carolinedeposada.com/one-word. That will get you going to get you your one word of the year. Back to the episode. So I want to share with you 3 quick principles, just these 3 mindset shifts that I want you to make as you start doing this work in this winter arc season. And the first one is focus on compounding results. I want you to think of that word compounding. Have you ever heard in the gym about a compound exercise? Like if you're doing strength training, it's an exercise that has a compound effect, meaning you are working different muscles at the same time, as opposed to an isolated exercise. My husband talks about these compound exercises all the time. He's always talking to me about like involving different muscles to do different things in your body. So if you're doing a squat or a deadlift, you are not only working your hamstrings, but you're also working your core and your including your arms and things like that. So compounding is about becoming a more efficient version of yourself. And I really, really want you to start thinking in those terms. I was talking about this with my husband the other day, and he was like, I cannot tell you how many times I talk to someone who wants to lose weight. And the first thing that I tell them is, hey, I want you to get into the gym to start strength training, because strength training helps you burn fat way faster and more efficiently. And he was saying that people will always respond to him with, yeah, I will. But what I want to do is that I want to start first with cardio. I want to kickstart my weight loss journey, and then I will go to strength training. Why do people do that? My husband did that at the very beginning also. And people do that because what feels in your heart that's like working the most is cardio, right? If you're overweight and you want to lose weight, you're like, oh, I need to do cardio because cardio is going to burn fat. Our mindset is that's going to get us the quickest results. Okay. But cardio in and of itself is not the most efficient way of losing weight, because muscle weighs more than fat. So when you build muscle, you burn fat quicker. Whereas if you're just focused on cardio, oftentimes what you lose is a lot of water weight, and you still have to build the muscle. So again, it's a temporary fix to a long-term problem. And eventually, one way or the other, you're going to need strength training in your life if you are really going to maintain a wellness journey. That's like the easiest way of explaining what a compound effect is. Think about something that is going to get you the most efficient result and is going to work on more than one thing at a time. Okay. Same thing goes with eating. If you are working on only losing weight, your mindset is calories in versus calories out. I'm just going to focus on eating less of everything so that I have less calories and then I can lose weight. That is an approach, it's a strategy. But if you are thinking from a compounding perspective, what are the foods that are going to most nourish your well-being? Okay, so if you were to start learning about nutrition, you would notice that there are foods that feed your brain. There are foods that feed your emotions. There are foods that are good for you cardiovascularly. There are good things that are good for your immune system. There are all these foods that really fuel your body. So if you were truly focused on a wellness perspective, instead of just lose the 10 pounds, your approach isn't going to be, oh, I'm going to eat half of the cheeseburger instead of the full cheeseburger. Your approach is going to be, what foods can I eat that are going to optimize my blood flow, my protein intake, my brain, my energy, my glucose levels, all the things. So we're looking at compounding effects instead of quick solutions for your wellness regimen. I hope that makes sense. And this is kind of a quick overview on this. We can go into this in more detail, but for right now, I just want to give you a bigger picture look at this, and then you can dive into the details. But the mindset is think compound. What is going to have a compound effect on my life? If I'm working on one thing, what else could that thing be working on? The last example I'm going to give you is, for example, if sleep is an issue for you, okay, you don't sleep well. Well, what are compound things that you can work on in your life, adjustments that you can make that will inevitably affect your sleep? So one thing, for example, is if you wake up earlier in the morning and exercise, that has a compound effect on your sleep at night. If you get some sun in the morning, that has a compound effect on your sleep at night. So we think that the thing we have to tackle is just the sleep, but what we start doing at the beginning of the day affects our sleep. So maybe sleep is such a difficult thing for you to tackle right now because you're suffering from insomnia, or you're very stressed at night, or there are things that are interrupting your sleep, so it feels unfeasible. Well, what can we work on that will have a compound effect that will inevitably affect our sleep? So let's start working on that. And then we'll tackle those things. And then even though sleep might ultimately be the thing that you want to solve, it may not be in isolation the thing you get to tackle first, because that's going to be an inefficient way of tackling it. So we're going to tackle other things that will affect our sleep as opposed to just trying to sleep more at night, which is often ineffective. I hope that makes sense. So the principle is think in compound effects. What can you do that is going to have a compound effect on the outcomes that you want in your life? The second principle is habit stacking. January is a beautiful time to make adjustments that you can stack onto for the rest of the year. I was recently attending one of Jesse Itzler's. If you don't follow Jesse Itzler, he's wonderful. He's the founder of the Big Ass Calendar. I love his work. And he did a New Year's workshop, which was just great. And one of the things that he talks about is add on a new habit every month. Like pick one new habit that you are going to add on to your life every month. So he's like, maybe one month you say, this is the month that I'm going to focus on drinking more water. And you just focus on that. Like, I'm going to drink more water. Then the next month you're like, oh, this is the month that I'm going to focus on shutting off my phone an hour before bedtime. That's just one thing that I'm going to do. Now, this is an interesting thing for you to think about. So compounding is a bigger picture thing. Is like, how does one thing affect other things? Habit stacking is little isolated habits that compound in the future. And that is what habit stacking is. So they work together. Okay. So if you are whatever you want to focus on your health, whether it's building muscle, sleeping better, eating better, meditating more, whatever it is that you want to do, you may have this big overall wellness picture that you want to tackle, but it could be extremely overwhelming. So habit stacking is a way to work in the micro area. So you're going to just work on one little thing for a small amount of time. And then the next month you work on another little thing for the small amount of time. And you start to stack onto those habits as opposed to this huge, big picture wellness journey that you want to take. So that's another mindset approach. And then lastly, beware of compensating. Beware of compensating. Oftentimes, we compensate in our lives on our wellness journeys. We feel good enough to be able to get away with not having great habits. So as an example, I have never been one to struggle with my weight per se. So in my 20s, I could eat a lot of junk food. I could eat all the chocolate chip cookies that I wanted. I could eat pizza. I could eat all these things because I knew that I wasn't going to gain weight very quickly. I could compensate for the things that I ate by having an active lifestyle, by having a fast metabolism, by having good genetics. I didn't have to focus on that in order to stay thin. Whereas I knew other people who could not compensate in that area. I have a friend of mine who she just looks at a pizza and she gains weight. Her body would not allow her to compensate with other things unless she was very strict with her diet. So you might look at that and say, oh, Gato is so lucky that weight is not an issue because then she can eat whatever she wants. That's actually not true. That is actually not true, because by having the ability to compensate, because I'm not one to gain weight very quickly, I was hurting other parts of myself. So, for example, I was always getting sick. I had gastric issues. I had energy issues. Genetically, I am predisposed to diabetes. So, if I would not have changed my lifestyle, then I would have ultimately ended up with diabetes. So, compensating would not have served me in the long run, even though I thought I could get away with it. Now, there are different people who compensate at different levels. If you hear the podcast episode that I did of my sister and her health journey, I'm going to put it in the show notes because I can't remember the number of the episode right now. But I shared that even though my sister was morbidly obese for most of her life, had terrible health habits, I mean, visibly, we could tell she was not doing well. My sister did not make changing her health a priority and didn't even think that she was going to get to the point that she got. When my sister got to the point where she was faced with an amputation and was looking at being bedridden for the rest of her life, she was surprised. Like, she really did not think that was coming. And if you knew her or knew her lifestyle or saw her, you'd think, I mean, it is so obvious that that was coming. It was crystal clear. How could she not have seen it? And I asked her about it one day, right? Because then when she was bedridden and she was facing an amputation, all of a sudden she was fighting for her 20%. She was doing everything she could to get out of that bed. And I was confused because I'm like, Kathy, why are you fighting so hard now instead of fighting back then? And she looked at me and she said, because I was always able to compensate. I knew that I wasn't at my best health, but I could still move around. I could still get up and go to the bathroom. I could still drive to my mom's house. I could go to a restaurant. Like, I had a walker, but I could walk with my walker, right? In her mind, as long as she could still do the basic things that she wanted to do, that was enough. And if she could find ways to compensate for that, she just wasn't willing to fight that hard for her health and wellness. It was when she got to the point that she could no longer compensate because she was literally bedridden, did it become a priority to her to be able to fight for her well-being. And now she's had to change her life completely because she understands that she can no longer compensate. So I ask you, what areas of your life are you getting away with it? Are you compensating because you can? Because maybe you can eat this, even though you know it's not good for you and you're gaining weight. You don't have to tackle this nutritional challenge or that wellness challenge because you can get away with it and still feel okay. And feeling okay is at different levels for different people. For me, I could have never gotten to where my sister got because I wanted to do a lot more things. You know, I want to ride bike. I want to ski. I want to jump. I want to play with my kids. So I would never be able to get to where my sister was, but I can still find ways to compensate in my life. And I do. Where do you compensate? And ignore your wellness regime because you can compensate. These are hard questions to ask, but they are so important. So this year for you, I want you to start thinking of those 3 mindset principles. What can I do to create compound effects in my life? If I am going to the gym today, I'm not going to the gym just because I am trying to build muscle and abs. I'm going to the gym because there is a compound effect of the gym, including my mental clarity, including my ability to sleep better, including my weight, including my relationships, because being at the gym forms community. There's a compound effect to that. So that's number one. Number two, even if I'm starting with one habit, that's okay because I can stack onto that later. So start this January, pick a habit, any habit. I have a client of mine who has struggled with weight and habits for a long time. And she has a lot of pain in her knees and in her joints. And one of the things that she started doing was lymphatic movements, just going like this, uh, lymphatic movements that really support her joints and her well-being. That seems small, but doing that every single day has improved her life significantly. So if that is the only habit that she's working on for one entire month until it becomes part of her identity, until she really assumes the habit, that's good enough, because then she can habit stack that onto something else. Once that is set in stone and she's adopted it, she's got it, then she can add on another habit that would support her wellness journey. So focus on the small stuff. Don't worry about the big picture. You don't have to tackle everything at once. What adjustment can you make this month, knowing that this is a habit stack? It's the same thing with the themes of the month. The reason that I choose a different theme every month is because my goal is that by the end of each year, I always call it like a pearl necklace. Imagine a string of pearls, and every month you add to the collection. And then at the end of the year, you clasp it together. And I have a word of the year and 12 themes that I have worked on in the year, each stacking on the other. So even though my theme for January is adjust January, my goal is to continue adjusting throughout 2026. And next month, I'm going to stack adjustments on to another theme so that I am constantly in pursuit of betterment. I am constantly in pursuit of growth, as opposed to becoming stagnant or complacent with what I'm already doing that is working. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's compounding, habit stacking, and no more compensating. No more compensating. Taking a hard look at your life and noticing what areas of your life are you ignoring because you get to compensate around them. And then if you have caught onto that, set an intention, name it, and nurture that intention, and rinse and repeat. And before you know it, you will have spent a lifetime growing, evolving, changing, and continuing your wellness, continuing that evolution process of your wellness. I started my wellness journey in 2011, and I started it with one habit that I wanted to change. I wanted to eliminate sugar from my life. And I spent a long time working on that. But as time went by, other things started to take priority. And there has been a huge evolution of my wellness journey from when I began to now. It would make no sense for me to be exactly where I was in 2011 right now. The process started with no sugar, but then it evolved. And I've gone through a million iterations of my wellness, and I continue to go through iterations of my wellness. Even this year, I'm making different adjustments that I never made before, that were never important before, because what has worked for me up until now isn't working for me going forward. Now I've gone deeper and further. Now it's not just not eating sugar because I don't want to get cancer, but it's starting a new journey as a woman who is embracing the menopause years and has different goals and different priorities than the ones that I had when I was in my early 30s. Okay? This is for life. And I also want to leave you with this. If you are at the beginning of your wellness journey and you feel like this is taking up so much of your energy, so much of your well-being, so much of your focus and your time, I want you to understand something. You are always going to need to invest some intention and mindfulness and energy into your well-being, but it is not always going to be this intense and look the same way. Because the more that you grow in this process, the more efficient you become. That is why compounds and habit stacking are such important principles, because you become a more efficient human being the more you learn and the more you step into this identity. It's not going to be this hard forever. You're always going to be learning new things and trying on new things. That's part of the habit stacking process. But what was once consuming to you will not be consuming to you forever. The one thing you do want to commit to is to realizing that from this point forward, there is nothing temporary about this. You are never going back to the old self, to the normal routines, to the default patterns. It is here on forward, going always to what is new, what is revolutionary, what is exciting, what is going to take me to the next level. We are going for permanent solutions, never temporary solutions. I hope this episode has served you and gets you thinking about your wellness journey. I know I've given you a lot in this episode, but it's important. If this is something you want to go deeper on, or if this feels very complicated to you and you need some support, I invite you to look into working with me either one-on-one or by joining my group program, The Well, because this is the work that we do, is integrating these concepts and making them a part of your identity and of your life. And it's a game changer. So I hope this has served you, and I will see you next Sunday. Have a beautiful, sacred Sunday. Bye. That's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for being here. I am deeply, deeply grateful to connect. If you're loving this podcast, I'd love if you'd follow, rate, or leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those reviews help us so, so much. And if you know of someone who could really use a voice like mine in their head, please share this episode with them. Now, if you're feeling called to keep the conversation going, come join us inside the Bliss and Up community on Facebook. It is a free space to reflect and root into intention together. You can find the link in the show notes or just search Bliss and Up with Caroline de Posada on Facebook. I'd love to welcome you in. Until next time, take care and keep noticing the sparks of bliss in your life.